Greetings, petrolheads. Welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. Today I'm gonna continue with the tutorials on the engine side. So we've basically done pretty much everything as far as inline fours go. I'm gonna let you guys decide what I do after the V8s, V6s or inline sixes, because you know. There's two types of six-cylinder engines. Both of them are relatively the same, but as far as tuning goes, at least, not the same at all as when it comes to how they sound and how they behave and whatnot. But in any case, the V8 we're gonna build is gonna be a little bit bigger. I'm gonna make it like something like 6 liters. Let's go up to 100 stroke, and then the bore, yeah, something like this. And the reason I'm doing this is because we wanna make it we wanna have a little bit more capacity per cylinder, if you will. Like for the 4 cylinders I made, they were 1.8 liters. So that is 400 cubic centimeters per cylinder. And I'm going to show you how much of a difference it makes if you have like, this is basically, I don't know, 750 cc or so per cylinder. And what that does to the turbos and whatnot. So first of all, like the naturally aspirated tuning is basically the same for all engine types. Like if you wanna have high outputs for a naturally aspirated engine, you're gonna wanna sharpen the cam profile and raise the rev limit and so on and so forth. Like I've shown you in the video how to build Spody naturally aspirated inline fours. That basically applies to inline sixes, V6s and V8s too. But as far as turbos go, there are a few differences. So first of all, I'm gonna be doing eco turbo, which is something that is not very common on V8s, but in any case, we are gonna do it here, and I see no reason why it wouldn't be a thing in real life. We're gonna go with VVT because that just makes I want to say everything, but not really everything, but most things better. So, as you can see, when we just set ball bearing and water to air cooler on the 9.4 turbo engine, it would spool up somewhere like here. This has to do with the fact that we have more capacity per cylinder, as I've mentioned, and that makes it so we produce more air per cylinder. More air means more air going into the turbo, and thus the same size of turbine will spool up more quickly. That's, in simple terms, how that works. For an eco tuning, we are going to decrease all of these a little bit, and we can make this turbo spool before 2000 RPM, no problem. Again, we're gonna decrease the boost to around 0.7 like we did on the other one, and you see we can make it so the turbo reaches its max boost at 2000 RPM. That is like really early. And decrease the turbine size a little bit. Since this engine is not gonna rev very high, I'm assuming like 6000, 6200 RPM maybe, we can live with the fact that it drops off boost at like 6500 or so, because we're not gonna rev that high. Direct injection again is pretty standard in 2015. Single configuration standard intake. I'm gonna run this on premium fuel, lean it out, around 70, maybe 80 ignition timing, and then let's just increase this to 6000 RPM. Set a proper exhaust diameter size. Now we've got 6 liters, so somewhere around here. Offloads don't matter, so let's just go with straight through. Oh, okay, so yeah, we're not making very much power, but we're making the power over a wide rev range. Starting to reach its limit. Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna increase the turbine size. We're no longer gonna reach our maximum boost at like 2000 RPM, but we are gonna make a lot more power, because like 200. What were we at? 295 horsepower. That is just. Oh, you know what it is? This. The AR ratio. I forgot to increase that. There we go. That's 400 horsepower, just like that. Which is still not a lot for a 6 liter. Let me tell you that much. But it's certainly a lot better than 295. So what are we aiming at? How much economy do we have here? 30.5%. If we go and increase the compression ratio a little bit, we're up to 30.97%. And we are going to use different conrods here to improve the reliability. And then this is basically, well, 405 horsepower. I mean, 405 horsepower is still quite a number, not for a 6 liter engine, but just generally speaking, 400. It's more than 400 horsepower. What more do you want? We can still increase this by a little bit. 1.3, that's 428, 430, 430 horsepower should satisfy most people's needs, I would say. And the economy is at 30.78%. You can, of course, go higher than that. So let us try and do that. Just didn't do anything anymore. Oh yeah, because we've reached the minimum turbine size. $425. I actually like this power curve because it's very flat, very usable at the top range, and therefore, you know, the turbo is still spooling up at 2200 RPM, which is like really good. And we can increase the compression ratio by one more point here, up to 426 horsepower. The exhaust is restricting airflow, so let's increase this by one more size, 430 horsepower. There we go. So this is how you set up an economical V8. If I'd done this with a setup like this on a 1.8 liter turbo inline-4, then it would definitely not spool at 2200 RPM. It would reach its maximum boost at like 3000 or even above that. And as I said, that is because we have more capacity per cylinder, so we are creating more air per cylinder. Alright, I think that's basically it for the Eco engine. V8 tutorial. That is going to be the 6 liter. Okay, it's the Turbo Eco. And I think since this video has not been going for very long, I'm gonna just clone this and show you how to do a sport version as well. Okay, now for the sport version, we might wanna decrease the stroke, because high stroke means we can't rev it very high, but we'll see. just go for better internals. Then we're gonna increase the RPM limit first. We get some valve float. You get some pretty bad valve float actually. Yeah, but that is because of the cam profile. Just by doing these 2 clicks inside this area, we went up to 475 horsepower, which is of course not a ridiculous amount for a 6-liter engine. So we are going to increase the exhaust size. We are going to sharpen the cam profile some more. Now we're having issues with the bottom end. So 7400 RPM is as far as it wants to go without making any issues. We're gonna go with the performance intake and with the throttle per cylinder, so we have better responsiveness. And now we're going to change this setup here. You can see that this is actually not a bad setup at all for just purposes of the torque curve, for the power output, power curve and whatnot, but you can still improve this quite a lot. By increasing the AR ratio from 1.31 to 1.4, we gained another like 34 horsepower or something like that. We're up to 590. Like, this is the question here, how much power do you want? Because from a 6-liter twin turbo V8 you can get a lot of power if you really want to. Here we're at 590 horsepower, which is definitely enough for like a large sized SUV or a large sized family saloon, or a luxury, or let's say premium saloon, something like a BMW M5. This would definitely be sufficient already. But if you want to build like a supercar or a hypercar or anything of the sort, well, we're gonna decrease the compression ratio by quite a bit. Then you of course would like some more power. If you just go to 1 bar, we're at 611 and we're at 823 Newton meters, which is pretty much the same as a Viper 8.4 liter V10. I think that's pretty much somewhere along those lines. But of course, we're gonna increase the compressor size. No, we're gonna increase the turbine size for now, and decrease the compression a little bit more. Oh yeah, and run the engine a bit richer. We're up to 679 horsepower, and we still have a long way to go if we really want to make this thing produce a massive amount of power. 964 Newton meters, over 1000 Newton meters. 1027. Now I'm going to increase the compressor size again, because you see that we were dropping off in boost at the top range. We're over 750 horsepower already. Over 800 horsepower, and we're still reaching our max boost at like 3000 RPM or so. There's still more potential left in this thing. Up to 806 horsepower. But I think I'd rather increase this some more. 1.5 bars is about as far as I would go for a sports car, for a road going supercar or something like that. You can, of course, I'm not going to set you any limits. You can go higher than that if you want to. 822 horsepower, 825. That is a pretty nice number to have. 825 horsepower. Let's just think about that for a second. That is 125 horsepower more than a Lamborghini Aventador. It is more than 200 horsepower more than a McLaren 12C. It is more than a Ferrari F12. It is more than any Aston Martin. It is like 825 horsepower is a lot, is what I'm saying. So, like, I don't know. So this is going to be the Turbo Sport, I guess. And I know you guys want to. So let's make something ridiculous. Alright. For something completely ridiculous, we are going to decrease the compression size even more. Rich in the fuel mixture. And you guessed it. Now, we're up to 2.5 bars of boost. And now we're just increasing the compressor size until we get to a point where we can make use of all that extra boost. Oh yeah, we need to increase the exhaust as well, quite a bit. And we're gonna increase the rev limit and strengthen the bottom end parts. Yellow is not that bad. The reliability is still 63. That's okay. It's not superb, but we're up to 1,000 horsepower now, and you can only go higher from here. Of course, we're gonna increase the crank profile some more, and also the turbine size. (1135 horsepower), 1143. So we've just surpassed the amount of horsepower that a Koenigsegg Agera R makes, which is 1140. Again, it's a matter of how far do you want to go. You can also just increase the turbo quality. And go up to 1246 like that, 1252. 1256. $1,304. We have surpassed our torque limit. Let's go with forged pistons instead. They do add a little bit of weight, and they can drive quite as high, but they can handle a lot more torque. Now 1,305 horsepower, like we've just beaten the sport version of this engine by like almost 500 horsepower. So just by doing a couple of clicks. So of course you can go a lot higher than this still. For example, I mean, you can just increase all these sliders. You can go even harder on the fuel mixture. You can go higher on the rev limit, higher on the cam profile. You can, if you really want to, you can also fit a racing intake or something like that. Again, like, it's a matter of how far do you want to go. 1340 horsepower, that is just as much as the Koenigsegg 1-to-1 as far as I know, I think. So I think we'll leave it at that. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.